Hello, welcome back to the Early Bar Football Podcast. I don't even know what episode number this is anymore. I think I should stop saying episode numbers, to be honest with you. Let's go with 8. Is that 8?
I went for 8.
8, right. We'll go with 8. I have no idea anymore. But we are back. We've got a load to talk about today. We've got some transfer stuff to talk about, some big names, one staying, one possibly on the move. And of course, since it's the first pod of the week, we have some things to talk about when it comes to the Premier League action from last weekend as well. Today, we're joined by Lynchy, Barnes, and Tang in a small field today. This is very intimate. I like it. We're going to start off talking about Harry Kane, and Harry Kane has announced that he is staying at Spurs. Well, he said he's staying at Spurs in the sense that he's not moving this summer. He was very careful about his language used in his tweets. Lynchy, is this a surprise or not really?
I think Harry Kane was in a very hard negotiating position. I mean, he's got 3 years left on his deal. He committed to Tottenham with that 6-year contract in 2018, it would have been now.
Yeah.
So I don't think it come as too much of a shock to me, considering how close it is to the end of the window as well, and how stubborn Daniel Levy is when it comes to transfers. But I think the main thing that came into play was the 3 years left on his deal. He didn't really have much bargaining power in comparison to Levy and the club.
Yeah. Barnes, what do you think when it comes to Kane? I mean, there's been some people saying today, he said he's not leaving this summer, so he's going in January. Is there any chance that Harry Kane could go mid-season to another club? Surely not, right?
Surely not. Not with his brother as his agent, anyway. I'm not sure Charlie Kane has the minerals to get that kind of deal sorted out in January. I mean, that's the first thing Harry Kane should learn. Don't employ your brother as your agent. It's a poor idea. Your transfer that you want probably isn't going to go, the way you want it to. But yeah, I'm not too surprised he stayed, given the length of his contract. He's probably prime age. Levy has no reason to sell him. I thought that Levy might press the trigger just because the amount of money is frankly ludicrous for a player of that age. Was it? They're offering 150 million euros, I think they were touted.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's going to stay. As you say, Owen, wouldn't surprise me if City or someone else come back in for him next season. But for now, Kane stays at Spurs.
It's a good point made by Ash there, Tang, in that just because Kane's staying now, I mean, does it rule out something happening next summer? Obviously, a year off the contract, does that make him more likely to leave? Or is a year too much time and then City will look elsewhere? Because they do need to sign someone right now. They still need a striker.
Well, it's a good point, but
thank you.
Kane was...
It wasn't mine, it was Barnes.
Well,
thank you.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because Kane, apart from Messi, obviously, but that was sort of not known. But Kane was sort of like the big jewel that everyone wanted to get this summer. He was like the main transfer target for a lot of teams, you'd imagine. Next year, he's not going to be that person. It's going to be Haaland. It's going to be potentially even Lewandowski now, because he said he wanted to leave before 35 or something, wasn't it? So Kane's not going to be, the main guy that people want to get, especially the fact that these other two players that I've just mentioned, they're also strikers. They're direct competitors, it's not. It's even got Mbappe as well, to be honest, and that's a whole different issue with the Real Madrid bid apparently today. But I don't know. As I think Lynchy mentioned, he had very little bargaining power. The gentleman's agreement, all well and good, but that also goes the other way. Spurs will only accept a bid that was good, that is acceptable. He said that. They said he could leave if an offer came in, but it's not going to be like a tenner. Do you know what I mean? Like, it has to be a bid which is good for Spurs and, good for the club. So again, as I say, he was not in a good position, and I think he's realised that.
It does raise a good point when it comes to next season, when it comes to Haaland as well, because like you said, I think everyone's kind of biding their time for next season, because obviously you have the release clause, everyone's going to activate it, and then it's basically a decision where Haaland wants to go. It's weird how football works, isn't it? Because you mentioned like Mbappe and people like Ronaldo mentioned it, how everything's a domino effect. If someone leaves here, they'll go here, and then he fits in here, and it's kind of like now. For me, like as a United fan, I was almost kind of comfortable with Kane going to City because I thought, well, they're not looking for a striker next year. So that's one less person going in for Haaland. And obviously City going in for anyone is convincing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, then so he would go to City, and then maybe Mbappe goes to Madrid, and then Ronaldo goes to PSG. Nobody's going in for Haaland. That's Man United's player to get. Now, with Kane staying at Spurs, I still think something will happen next year. I just don't know if City will be willing to pay, like you said, 150 million euros with an extra year off his contract. Then by that point, what will he be? 29, 30, I think, next year.
I think it's a case of this sort of chapter of the Harry Kane saga is now closed, but another one is now opening up with this season that's going on, and these conversations will happen over the year, I imagine. So it's not over, but it is kind of over for this part anyway.
Literally, obviously you're an Arsenal fan, so probably quite difficult to relate to a Spurs fan. but just as a football fan in general, Harry Kane openly said he wanted to leave, and the reason he wanted to leave essentially because Spurs wasn't good enough to win trophies. I get that he's the captain, and I get that he's Harry Kane, and I get that he scores a lot of goals. But if the Spurs fans are just like, oh, we're just happy to have you, thanks for coming back, do you reckon they would do that, or do you reckon there's going to be a bit of hostility towards him?
I mean, I think he got quite a good reception at the weekend, didn't he, when he came on against Wolves? So I think that's pretty indicative of the reaction he's going to get down the line, especially after now formally announcing that he's going to stay. I mean, he is by far their most prized asset. I mean, he's probably going to be their, if not already, their top scorer in Premier League history. So I think the Spurs fans will be very quick to forgive him because and I think it adds to it that just how important he is to Tottenham. I mean, if there's a type of different player who says he wants to leave and he might be a fairly regular starter, might be less forgiving of him, might take a bit more time, but just because of how essential he is and how essential he has been over the past few years, I think they will be pretty quick to forgive him if they haven't already, to be honest. Yeah.
Barnes, with City not obviously signing Harry Kane, do they go for someone else? Do they sign anyone else? Do you see them purchasing anyone else, or is time starting to run out on them?
Time is starting to run out on them, and I think that is quite an interesting conundrum for Pep and the ownership of Manchester City. Is do they go in for who is available and who can they actually get? Because as you say, there's quite a lot of huge players that are sort of flirting with clubs around Europe, but maybe they're not available this year. They'll be available next year. Tang mentioned a couple of them. You got Mbappe, Lewandowski, but it's unlikely that there's going to be a last minute huge bid for one of them. So I'm not sure really. I think City will have been gutted that they missed out on Messi. I think if you look back on that, him going to PSG, I mean, there was a lot of sort of talk about the link up with Guardiola, but obviously now that's not happened. They've also now lost out on Kane as well. So I'm not sure. It seems the options they're going to seem to be either tied down to contracts or maybe looking at moving next year. But I would have thought they will sign someone. But it's very unlike Manchester City to see him panicking in the late stages of the transfer window. So it'd be interesting to see if they do a deadline day splash on someone, never heard of, or, 35 million for Andy Carroll type deal. But
that'll be a very Man United thing to do. It'd be like, oh my God, we need to buy someone. Let's buy someone from South America we've never heard of. 45 million. Let's see if it works. But it is interesting when it comes to that. It does make you wonder when it comes to the Messi thing. If they knew 3 weeks ago, we're not getting Harry Kane, he's staying, they might have maybe pursued the Messi one a bit more, because it felt like they never really pursued it that much. And like PSG were really the only team in for Messi. I don't know. Tang, finally, before we move on to something else, if they don't get anyone, I saw on Sky today, it blows the title race like wide open. Does it? Does it actually? I think it probably opens things up a little bit, right?
Yeah, of course it does. When you're not adding the 20-25 goals a season that Kane will probably get you, I don't think it blows it wide open.
Yeah, it's still like 550 million team, aren't they?
Exactly. And with all their faults, whatever City is saying, they played Gabriel Jesus at right wing the other day, didn't they? And
Torres at front.
He's their only recognised striker. Played him at right wing. I don't think it's as big a problem as people are saying. But as you say, Kane will get you goals, and now you're obviously he's not played for City before, but that's kind of what you're not getting.
Yeah.
And if City end up, if the league only goes to between a few points, those 20-25 goals are worth a lot of points come the end of the season. So it'd be quite interesting to see, especially now Chelsea got Lukaku.
That's what I was going to say. If it's something that's determined by a couple of points, that can be just 25 goals that Lukaku has that Man City don't. So that is, it opens things up. But I agree with you. I think if they're going to, at the end of the season, we didn't win the league because we didn't get Harry Kane. Talk about first world problems. Good Lord. I mean, it's ridiculous. Speaking of big signings, though, Mbappe to Madrid. Tang brought it up earlier. There's a bit of a weird drama going on with Kylian Mbappe at the moment. So he's got, I think, a year left on his contract. Now, Real Madrid submitted an offer last night worth, I think it's like 160 million euros, something around that number. Now, reportedly, PSG have rejected this, or PSG have come out today. It's getting very Game of Thrones, put it this way, because PSG are coming out saying they know that Kylian Mbappe probably isn't going to sign a new deal. But reportedly, Kylian Mbappe has said to PSG, I won't leave on a 3. I won't screw you over like that. PSG have named their price to Real Madrid. Real Madrid aren't willing to meet that price. And we're getting into very weird situations where now PSG are trying to accuse Madrid of tapping up their player. It's getting all very nasty. Ultimately, Lynchy, do you see Mbappe going to Madrid?
I do see him going to Madrid for sure, because I know everyone's saying it's been his childhood dream, had posters of Ronaldo when he was younger. So I think it's a case of when, not if, whether it be this summer or next summer, like you say, on a 3. I think it's quite interesting, though. I think it was quite a surprise to me. Obviously, it's quite last minute, close to the transfer deadline, and how Real Madrid can afford it. But obviously, looking into it a bit more, obviously, they sold Varane, Odegaard, sold Hakimi a year or 2 ago, and obviously not renewing Sergio Ramos's contract. Apparently, they have been planning this for years. Like, it's always been their main target, Mbappe. So I think that planning they've undertaken, I think, shows how much they want him. So I think it's a case of when, not if.
It's Barnes, it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that a club like PSG, who, let's say, their transfer dealings at best can be described as shady, are saying that, you know, they're getting angry now that Madrid might be tapping up their players. Oh, I can't believe someone wouldn't play fair in the transfer market. Is that pot calling the kettle black?
I mean, I'm pretty sure they'd have been tapping up Neymar. I remember that Barcelona deal. They were definitely tapping him up. The tapping up thing in football is something I've never understood. Everyone taps it. They don't ring up the club and say, you know, hello, I don't know, Sunderland or whoever, I want to buy, you know, your striker. It's not how it works, is it? Clearly, the agents talk and the club speaks to the player like, do you want to come? It's very rare you see deals where, although there is the one with, I think it's Cornet from Lyon, who's Burnley are trying to sign him, but clearly he does not want to play for Burnley, which is completely fair. But yeah, normally the players is sort of in on it from a while ago. I think the whole situation with Mbappe is quite funny, really. I mean, Perez at Madrid is, you know, certified S-house, so yeah, I really doubt they have. I know Lynch made a good point about them. They have been planning this, but even so, the Spanish league and La Liga is in turmoil. Their finances are, I'd say, still edgy from what I've seen. So I think what they're doing is saying to Mbappe, we do want you, so don't sign a contract with PSG. And I don't think they have any intention of actually signing him this summer. I don't think they can stump up the money, even if they say they can. Or they've made a bid, but it's not. But they know it's not going to get accepted because they know the price. They can't afford it. So it's pure gamesmanship, I think. And it's just to say to Mbappe, look, we're serious about taking you on. So bide your time, and you'll be a Real Madrid player.
It's interesting because that is. I mean, I said it's like very Game of Thrones. That is very Game of Thrones, isn't it? It's very like, we'll think 3 steps ahead. We know this isn't going to get accepted, but it sends a message. PSG become the bad guys. Because you're right. I mean, I know, like literally said, they have sold a lot of players and they did get a lot of players off the book. But then at the same time, they sign Alaba and they put his like wages are something astronomical. It's like 100 million a year or something ridiculous on wages. And that goes back to the whole free transfers. Oh, they're free. They don't cost anything. They do. They really do. I think you're right. I think when it comes to the Madrid thing, you look at like Barcelona. How did Barcelona get in this position they're in now where they lost their best ever player? It's by bad financial planning. And but by, you know, outrageous wages and just spending big amount of money on transfer fees for players that didn't pay off. Not to say Mbappe wouldn't pay off, but you look at them and you go, there's no way you got that money. It's such a bluff. It's such a bluff. There's no way you got that kind of money to spend. I mean, Tang, what do you think of it? I mean, it does seem strange that we've got about a week left of the transfer window. How do you sign Kylian Mbappe in a week? That feels like a signing that takes like months to do, right?
Yeah, I think this is some unbelievable 4D chess played from Real Madrid. I think they know for a fact they're not going to get him this summer. He's got a year left on his deal. I know Mbappe's great and everything, World Cup winner, won everything in France, very exciting player. But 160 million euros, whatever, I think it's just a bit of flirting with Mbappe and his agent and his party saying, look, we really want to sign you. This is how much we're willing to pay for you because even though you've got a year left in your contract. And then next summer, when he's a free agent, it'll be like, oh, who offered the most money for me back when I was actually like,
contracted. Interested in you in ages. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the you up text and it's like, oh yeah, remember us? Yeah, we're back and we want you now. Even though we wanted you a year ago. And it's like it's forward planning from Real Madrid, which is not, you don't often say that about them, I don't think. They're quite sort of not knee jerk, but they just buy who they want there and then. Usually anyway.
Well, you don't really see PSG getting caught out that often as well, which I think I think they thought we've signed Messi, Mbappe will re-sign. If anything's enough to get Mbappe to re-sign a contract, it's signing Lionel Messi. But the interesting thing as well that I saw is the director of football, that Leonardo, came out today and basically said, well, we need to, we told them basically Madrid how much we would want for him because they are open to selling him because they are aware that he might not sign a new contract. Yeah. But they're like, but we still owe money to Monaco. Oh, who? You owe money to Monaco? Where PSG going to find the money for it? Oh, God, man. Maybe, I don't know, the state-funded club that you are. Maybe the country of Qatar. You might find the money there. Maybe. Just maybe. Maybe in all the sponsorship deals of Qatar that you have as well. Just cry me a river, honestly. You just signed Lionel Messi. Seriously. We might not. Mbappe might lose him on a free. Oh, you just signed someone on a free. Best ever player all time. Ridiculous. Speaking of, though, one of the best ever players, Cristiano Ronaldo, might be on the move. What a crazy transfer window, by the way. Before we get on to this, we're talking about Messi, Mbappe, and Ronaldo all possibly moving in the same window. How nuts is that? It's like, I don't know, that Marvel show's on the moment. What if? It feels like an episode of that. What if Messi moved to PSG? Everything goes crazy. Cristiano Ronaldo possibly is on the move. He requested to be named on the bench in Juventus' first match of the season last weekend. He did come on. I think he scored in like the last minute, but it was ruled out for VAR and he was very upset by it. Anyway, reportedly, he has to be on the bench because he's trying to figure out a move away from Juventus. Juventus are reportedly open to the move if they can find out the right deal. The biggest issue right now, though, is that apparently not many people are actually interested in signing Cristiano Ronaldo. What does that even mean, Lynchy? I mean, there's no doubt he's one of, if not the greatest player of all time, right? He's up there in the debate with Messi. But why do you think there is no club that's like, yes, we'll have Cristiano Ronaldo tomorrow?
I think primarily probably money for the first thing, especially with COVID, the amount of money clubs have lost and probably his age. I mean, he's 35, nearly 36
I think he might be 36, yeah.
Yeah, and clubs are... It's not like in the past where clubs would potentially sign a player in early mid-30s and keep them for a couple of years on those large wages. Excuse me, they'd rather invest in younger players for the future. So I think that's probably the two primary reasons why, especially with the impact of COVID on clubs' revenue.
I mean, Barnes, realistically, though, even at his age, I mean, even me as a Man United fan, not just because of the romance of having Ronaldo back at the club, surely most clubs would want him, right? He's still Cristiano Ronaldo. He can still change games. I mean, we saw it like at the Euros. He can still play. So wouldn't any club want him?
I think you'd want him. You'd want his image. You want him to be associated with your club. I'm not sure you want his contract at 36 years old. If you could get Ronaldo on a loan, then that would probably be ideal. But obviously that's never going to happen. It's odd, this situation. He's made his move very late in the transfer window. And it kind of feels like just because Messi has got all this press and all this huge move to PSG, I was like, I'm having some. Hang on. Yeah. Messi's getting all the presses on Messi. I'm going to go and do something crazy. I'm going to, throw my toys out the pram at Juventus, and I'm going to be off to, Manchester City or wherever. But I think he's just left it too late in the day. And it's hard to tell how serious he is. I don't really know what his contract situation is at Juventus. He got a year left, 2 years.
End of the season.
Okay. Well, I assume he'll be on the move then after that. But it is an interesting situation. I think Lynchy touched on it with sort of teams are looking at a lot younger players. There's not the Chinese Super League anymore to sort of, I'm going to buy this, 35-year-old former star. Like those kind of players, and you're really struggling to get moves now. I know Ronaldo's, next level, so he will get a move somewhere, but it'll be interesting to see who takes on that huge contract with Ronaldo.
Yeah, I mean, Tang, there have been rumours about him possibly going to Man City, and reportedly, Apparently that's more from Ronaldo's point of view as opposed to Man City, because Man City have basically said he doesn't fit our profile. We tend to look for younger players. Obviously, we're not so scared to invest lots of money, but he just doesn't fit what we would be looking for. But we did mention that Harry Kane is staying at Spurs. We mentioned that Man City don't tend to panic and do knee-jerk reactions. But could you see them possibly thinking, like the last day, screw it, we'll just go for Ronaldo? It would be very unlike them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I feel like Ronaldo is obviously Ronaldo, but I feel like there's not many clubs he could actually. The possibility of clubs he could go to is very small. Like now,
it's like
PSG.
Messi. It's Messi, isn't it? It's that situation over again.
PSG have now got Messi.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea aren't going to buy him for obvious Premier League reasons, but then obviously because they got Lukaku. Real Madrid have no money, although Mbappe, which is weird. And, his possibilities for clubs are very small as it is.
Mm.
But then on a more flippant point, do you reckon like Ronaldo, Haaland, Lewandowski, and Kane all have a group chat and they're like, lads, we're the best strikers in the world. Let's cause some carnage.
Well, it's like a weird swingers scenario. They've all put their clubs in a pot. You grab one. Where am I going? Oh, I'm going to Man City. Oh.
There you go. Yeah,
Aguero picks out. I'll go to Barcelona. Oh, crazy. It does kind of feel like that. I mean, to be honest, not that Ronaldo would ever see this, but if you do go to Man City, you're dead to me. I'll put that out there right now because it's just ridiculous.
He's not moving now.
Yeah, exactly. We stopped him here. But I was thinking about this, like the whole Man City thing, and maybe that he was pushing it. If he was to go, which I just can't see it, to be honest with you. I mean, I agree with you, Tan. I just can't see that happening. If he was to go, though, you would think that either he calls Sir Alex and says, "Look, that's my only. I'm gonna go to Man City," and he'd be like, go away, basically, don't talk to me ever again, or Fergie would ring him and be like, you don't want to do that. Give it an extra year, free transfer. Hopefully pandemic will be a bit more subsided by that point. Things are opening up a bit more. You can go somewhere else. I don't know. I still think that maybe he probably won't go anywhere. It depends with the Mbappe thing. I think there is like a rumor that, if Mbappe were to go to Real Madrid this summer, which again, I don't think he does, but if Mbappe were to go, that opens up a spot in PSG, and then PSG are basically making their version of the Harlem Globetrotters and having like Neymar, Messi and Ronaldo, which would be amazing to see. I mean, Ronaldo and Messi on the same team would be amazing, but like, how old?
There's not much for a press there, is there?
No, exactly. But it would be amazing to see. I mean, the amount of money they would make from like shirt sales just alone, it'd just be weird. It'd be weird, but I don't know if I see that happening, to be honest with you. The crazy thing about it is that all of this is happening in like, with 7 days left of the transfer window, and it's happened in the last 3 days. It's just, and like you said, even Lewandowski comes out, I fancy a new challenge, actually. It's like, what is going on? Everyone's just decided that enough's enough. It's such a bizarre situation. Anyway, we'll talk about the Premier League because we haven't spoken about last weekend's result. Obviously, there was some very interesting games. We'll start off, and I don't mean this to be an Arsenal bashing podcast, but Lynchy's first. So we will talk about Arsenal and Chelsea. What did you make of the game? Of course, Chelsea won 2-0. Lynchy, what were your thoughts?
I mean, we started okay for the first 10, 15 minutes, but you could see the game plan, specifically in relation to Lukaku, was just completely wrong. I mean, Pablo Mari and Rob Holding were just standing right behind him and letting him just shield the ball and turn. You either got to stand a couple of yards off of him, or you got to go in front of him and intercept the passes into him. And they were doing neither. They were just letting him turn. He was bullied. It was okay like the first 10, 15 minutes, but obviously as soon as they got that goal, it just heads dropped as usual. So yeah, it wasn't a surprise. I mean, obviously Chelsea got a much stronger team than us. I mean, they were clear favourites going into the game. They're going to be challenging for the title this year. We're going to be more likely mid-table, so it wasn't exactly a shock, unlike the Brentford game, for instance. Yeah,
exactly. I think most realistic Arsenal fans would have thought it'd be a surprise if we win, or if they'd be happy with a draw. To be honest with you, I thought the second half Arsenal didn't play that bad, because I don't think Chelsea got out of second gear, probably for the majority of the game. There's just a lot of negativity surrounding Arsenal right now, maybe justifiably so. I mean, I know we spoke about it last time, Lynchy, but I mean, Arsenal played tonight, obviously, in the Carabao Cup. I saw something earlier. Apparently, it's the first time they've entered in the second round since like 1995 or something ridiculous. Because obviously they're not in Europe. it's weird that a second round League Cup game is a must win, but surely it's got to be a must win game tonight, isn't it? I mean, if he loses against West Brom, he's not that he's finished, but I mean, he is in a lot of trouble if he loses tonight's game, right?
Yeah, he's in massive trouble even if it goes to goes to extra time. I mean, I don't think there's second legs in the Carabao Cup. Even if it goes to something like extra time or penalties,
just go straight to pens. I think Carabao Cup.
Yeah,
they don't even do extra time. Yeah,
they've got to put in a really convincing performance against a team like that, because especially like, for instance, away to Brentford, it's sort of a similar team. They've just come up from the Championship. West Brom have just gone down from the Premier League. So yeah, the manner of the win, if we do win, or the manner of the performance, has to be much better than it was before. And yeah, in my opinion, if they lose, then he probably would be on the chopping block, to be honest with you. I mean, we're obviously going to lose to Man City the weekend. I can't see any other result. But I guess what some fans are saying are that after the Man City game, we have got quite a good run of games. I think between 8 and 10 games, a bit against teams you expect to be bottom half of the league. So it's like give him a chance to get a run going in those games. And if he doesn't, then that's it has to be over, because if you can't beat those teams, then got absolutely no chance.
Barnes, what did you think, switching it to Chelsea? What did you think of Chelsea? I mean, obviously they've been impressive their first couple of games. Difficult to judge, obviously, from just a couple of games, but Lukaku did look very impressive. Do you think with Lukaku, it's enough, considering now obviously City probably might not get a striker? Do you think Chelsea can be considered one of, if not the favourites this season?
I'm sticking by him. I'm sticking by him to win the league. I think the moment where I thought this squad is unbelievable, I think Kante came on like the 70th minute, didn't even start, and they're bringing him on at 2-0 up against Arsenal, and you're thinking, if you're an Arsenal player, like, we're not getting back into this game. Might as well give up now. You're an Arsenal midfielder and you see N'Golo Kante come on. Their squad is unbelievable. They've signed, the sign of Lukaku. Yes, as Rob Holding and Pablo Barry, they're not, the best defenders.
It's a terrible pair, isn't it?
It's not the best. And again, it just shows Arsenal's lack of preparedness. But Lukaku was immense. He just looks so on it. Just his attitude, everything about him. Should have scored 2 goals, and then there was that incredible save from Leno just after I criticised him the week before being rubbish. Makes an amazing save. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But yeah, I think Chelsea look really, really, really strong this season. It wouldn't surprise me, as I've predicted, that they win the league. They're going to be right up there.
So Holding and Murray with a centre-back pairing, right, at the weekend. I, as a United fan, I'm saying this, and it's no mean feat, I would rather have Phil Jones and Chris Smalling as a centre-back partnership. Those names terrify me. I'm just seeing on the screen to my right now at this time of recording that Ramsdale looks like he's going to start for Arsenal tonight as well. So
interesting.
That's going to be very interesting. Very interesting.
On the West Brom game, I think it will be really interesting because they're under Ishmael. They play the most long ball, high press, intense. It's going to be Brentford, but next level. Yeah. So if Arteta hasn't learned his lesson since the Brentford game, they will lose that game. They're going to be facing long throws, long balls. They got about 3 huge strikers, West Brom, and they're going to be relentless. So I think actually we can edit this out if they win, but I think they might lose tonight.
Keep it in. I mean, I saw that. I saw on the preview earlier. They were like, they play a super high pressing game. They got 3 strikers that will close you down. And that's what happened at Brentford, and Arsenal just completely fell apart. So considering West Brom, I think they started the season pretty well as well in the Championship. So it's an interesting one. Talk about a team that's coming in with no momentum and a team that's coming in with loads. And it's away. It's going to be an interesting game. First of all, Tang, did you watch the game?
No, I didn't.
No. Well, I'll ask you a question that's kind of based loosely around this then. Will be that Graham Potter has been linked to Arsenal. Now, we spoke about this a couple of days ago, I think. Do you think he would be a good fit? You said you can't see it happening. I said if Arteta was to go, I think Graham Potter would be actually probably one of the better options. What do you think about Potter to Arsenal?
I agree with you then in saying he would be a really good option. I think if you're an Arsenal fan or on the Arsenal board, that's who you're looking for. Especially when I think you showed a list and it was like Conte.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It was Conte's never going to go to Arsenal. No offense.
Brendan Rodgers was another one.
He's just not going to.
No.
Potter would be a really good choice, but would he leave Brighton? I think,
which is crazy. Which is crazy. Would he be willing to leave? Would he be willing to leave Brighton for Arsenal?
He definitely would. Come on.
I think he would.
I don't know.
I think he'd have to. The amount, but he still get way more budget at Arsenal than he would at Brighton.
It's bigger profile, isn't it? It's bigger
Yeah.
profile.
Bigger profile. I do get that, and let's just say I would understand if he didn't want to go to Arsenal and stay at Brighton.
Absolutely.
I think that's the craziest part.
Better coaches than him have failed, put it that way.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, it should be a no-brainer, really. But the fact that it is a brainer, it's not a no-brainer, is the crazy part of the whole situation. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but there's some names on there which I could not believe are on the list to be Arsenal, potential next Arsenal manager.
The Brendan Rodgers one on there.
Yeah,
Arsenal are obsessed with Brendan Rodgers, and it's just not going to happen. Even a couple like the last season, it was like, hey, Brendan Rodgers come in. It's like, why on earth would Brendan Rodgers leave Leicester to go to Arsenal? We're not talking like going to Man City or something like that, where you go, well, yeah, obviously it's very difficult to turn it down. No disrespect to Arsenal, but at the moment, it is a step down from Leicester. That is the facts in terms of league position, in terms of European competition, arguably profile. You could say Arsenal are a bigger club historically, obviously, but Leicester have got more league titles than Arsenal in recent history as well. It's just he's got a great relationship there. He's never going to get sacked as the Leicester coach. He's got great players. That's just not going to happen. The Conte one, I was surprised when they were like, Conte wants to go to Spurs in the summer. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, if they sign Conte, that's bigger than any player that they could sign, because that is legitimately someone who can turn nothing into something and maybe get you closer to actually winning something. Him going to Arsenal, I know Conte's crazy, and maybe Arsenal could give some massive contract, because it's a slight falsehood that Arsenal don't have money. It's just the fact the board don't want to give them any money. But when they want to cough up, they can. I mean, they spent the most in the league this season. That's what kind of baffles me as well, is when they'll be like, they spent the most at the Premier League, and you sort of look at their squad and you go, where? Where? Like, I get Ben White, like Odegaard's, it was a good signing, but he was there last season, so they would be still at the same level as they were last year. I don't know. I think maybe, like Lynchy said, if they get out of these first just difficult games and maybe start building up some momentum, but it just seems like there's only one ending to Arteta as the Arsenal manager, doesn't it? And it just feels very inevitable at the moment. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see when it comes to that. The interesting one, of course, will be tonight, because if he loses tonight and it's like embarrassing, then maybe that will be enough. I don't know, but that will certainly be interesting. I want to talk about Manchester United, because, of course, I do. United drew 1-1 against Southampton at the weekend. And from my point of view, it was a very Man United performance in recent years of just very like, oh, we should win that. But Southampton were better than us. Lynchy, were you surprised by that one, considering Southampton, just especially when you look on paper, were predicted to struggle this season?
I was surprised, yeah. I mean, I thought, like you say, Southampton in our relegation predictions, we were definitely saying, obviously they haven't landed now, he signed a new contract, lost James Ward-Prowse, they still lost a core squad members over the summer. They would be struggling around the relegation zone this season. So I was surprised, Man U, after beating Leeds 5-1, they were going into it in good form, obviously beat Everton, didn't they, in pre-season comfortably as well. I was surprised how they just seemed a bit slow, Man United, in the game. Like no real urgency. Even after, there was a 5-minute spell after they got the equaliser where you thought there's only one team going on to win this, but then suddenly it just dropped again, and Southampton got a foothold in the game. So yeah, I was surprised at it. And those are the games, if Man U want to be challenging for the league, you have to win.
And that's the frustrating thing, is that there's some United fans on Twitter that give it, and it's true, when they go, yeah, second game, don't panic, don't get outraged. But it's a case of, yeah, but if you're going to, I don't think they're going to win the league this season, but if they're going to be up there, you beat Southampton away from home, because Man City beat Southampton away from home. Liverpool will beat Southampton away from home. Chelsea will beat Southampton away from home. That's just what it is. Barnes, do you find it surprising, like maybe that Rafa Varane didn't start, but Sancho didn't start as well? That felt like the perfect game, considering he's got a few minutes now. Are you surprised not to see him start?
I'm more surprised about Varane than I am Sancho. I know Sancho signed earlier, but I was convinced that once Varane was sort of fit, that Ollie would just chuck him straight in, just caliber of player. We've all said how we think he's pretty much instantly going to improve the defence. So I was surprised about Sancho. I guess you've got players like Greenwood, who's been playing well, so it kind of makes sense, give him a chance off the bench. But when I watch Manchester United, I'm always confused about what they're trying to do tactically. They seem to, they've got some incredible players. When Pogba and Fernandes, it kind of feels like they get the ball, where's Pogba and Fernandes? Let's pass it to them, and hopefully they'll do some incredible skill or do something unexpected, which will then, give us a goal. Or they play off a lot of moments of brilliance. There doesn't really seem to be a coherent sort of tactical, we're going to do this, unless they're playing someone like a Manchester City where they can sit back and counter-attack. But that doesn't tend to happen, or teams are sort of, used to that now. They know Manchester United have incredibly pacey forwards. So they don't, even Southampton, who normally have a high line, sat quite deep against them at the weekend. So I don't understand what they're trying to do. And I guess that's on Ollie.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes part of the problem. Like you say, when we're playing a big team, you know exactly how United are going to play. They have a game plan and they execute it very well. Results against big teams are very good. I think the encouraging thing is that game at the weekend didn't have Rashford, who's back in training today. No Cavani, who's back in training as well. Obviously, Sancho didn't start. Varane didn't start. So there are big players to come in. What I wanted to ask you about, Tang, was Anthony Martial. He started up front, which I think was a surprise for a lot of people, considering how well Greenwood played up front the prior week. Martial just objectively wasn't very good again. Do you think his days at United might be numbered towards the end of this season?
I think they've got to be, right. I mean, he's not really... He had a good first couple of seasons, from what I remember, where he scored a decent amount of goals. But even then, I thought he just doesn't look like... He just looks so disinterested.
He's got the resting face.
Which isn't a bad thing, because obviously players like Berbatov were very disinterested. But Ibrahimovic, even like that, they're very disinterested players, and they're very good at what they do. But with Martial, it just always seems like he's got a face on and always it's not worked out for me, but it's not actually my fault. But that might be a gross sort of over-assumption on Anthony Martial. But I just feel when you're leading the line for Man United, there's got to be something within you who's got to be like proud. Like, This is a huge club. I'm leading the line. I need to take the game by the scruff. Then I need to do something brilliant. And I feel like, people like Mason Greenwood would do that. He obviously, as an academy product, Rashford does that. Cavani knows how to lead a line for his country and big clubs. I just don't think Martial does that. It doesn't give the vibe. And I don't know if a vibe is a bad reason or a good reason to not like a player, but hopefully you get what I mean with that. It's just not, there's something that isn't clicking, and it doesn't sit right with me.
I think, like at this point, when it comes to Martial, first of all, there are certain players that start off on the wing and eventually they come in and become a striker. But there are certain players that start off on the wing and think they can be a striker and they're not. Like Theo Walcott was a great example of this. I want to be next Thierry Henry. Yeah, I want to be Thierry Henry. And eventually it was just like, yeah, but you're not a striker, mate. You're just not. You can't score goals. And it's a bit like that with Martial. He wants to be a striker, but the more you see him play, you're probably not a striker. And at this point, United have two strikers that are better than him. Cavani, obviously, is probably the best striker at the club, but this is his last year. We had to kind of beg him to stay, to be honest. And Greenwood already has become a better striker than Martial, at least with Greenwood. And you saw it when Martial went off at the weekend. Greenwood got moved to be the striker again. And like you said, I know a lot of people talk about him looking disinterested. I think that's probably just his face. But in reality, when he was playing at the weekend, if it's not to his feet or it's a through ball, you just won't get anything from him. He's not one of those players that's interested in going like, I'm not going to get the ball, I'm going to come deep to get it. Or I'm not getting the ball, I'm going to start trying to stretch centre back. So I'm going to start trying to go into the channel. So just do anything just to try and make something happen. He just doesn't do that. And again, when it's openly obvious and people are talking about Man United want to buy Haaland next season, you would think, right, okay, that's because Cavani's leaving, but we're still going to have Greenwood who will be better this time next year. I just don't see a scenario whereby he stays at United and he's the striker. If he's accepting to be like, okay, I'm going to be on the left wing, that's one thing. But I don't know, to be honest, if we see that happening at all, to be honest with you. I don't know. I can't see that future him. Finally, I do want to talk about Spurs quickly, because Spurs won their second game in a row, and Nuno, obviously all this stuff about Harry Kane going on at the moment. Lynchy, do you think people might have, underrated Spurs' chances this season, or are we just looking at a situation where they've had two decent games?
I think it's a bit of both, really. I mean, obviously, I think the manner in which they signed Nuno as a manager obviously was nowhere near their first choice. I think that was the first reason why people thought they haven't probably got a chance. They haven't even managed to get their, fourth, fifth choice manager. I mean, they went through so many options in the summer, didn't they? Sort of looked like they were scrambling to sign Nuno at the end. I think that was the first reason why people think they have a chance. I mean, the manner of the two wins is pretty solid. I mean, I think that's the way they're going to be playing now, though, isn't it? Like, They're not going to be like free-flowing football. It's more going to be solid defensive. We saw that at Wolves with Nuno. I mean, I think with Kane as well, obviously the news today, I mean, there's no reason why they can at least put pressure on the top four. I mean, we always joke about Tottenham putting pressure, don't we? But I mean, with Kane and Son, and I guess as being a Spurs fan this season, I'd be feeling more confident than I was right at the start of the season with the manner of the 2 wins. I mean, with Mourinho, the whole point of him coming in was to be primarily more defensively solid, and they didn't really even manage that at points in the season, did they? So I think it'd be encouraging, but it's very early days still, yeah.
Quickly before we move on to Barnes, who finishes higher this season, Arsenal or Spurs?
I'll say Tottenham. With the news of Kane, today, I mean, unless Aubameyang somehow turns around his form and gets back to like 30 goals a season again. You know, like Tinger said earlier, Kane is going to get 20, 25 goals and he's going to put in 100% for them. Now he's confirmed that he's staying, so I can't see us overtaking them and finishing higher, to be honest.
Barnes, considering, where did you put Spurs in your prediction for this season?
I said they were going to be dark horses, which is, I feel that's a bit unfair because they're very good. They're not really a dark horse, are they? But everyone had already, I was last and everyone already said Brentford, so I couldn't say it again. But yeah, I think Spurs actually have a good team. If you look through their squad on paper, they're all good. I think it's quite funny how Nuno sort of is Jose light in terms of his football. There's one ranted and raved, can't stand Jose, get Nuno in. Literally exactly the same. He's just a bit of a nicer guy and he's got a beard. There's not really that much difference between them. But yeah, if I was a Spurs fan, I think I'd be intrigued anyway and be quite happy with the season's going. Let's face it, they could make top 4. I don't think any of us actually think that's going to happen just based on the strength of the other team. But it's Premier League can be crazy sometimes. They could get in. If they go on a run of form, then but I would say they face Manchester City at probably the ideal time. First game of the season, not up to speed. So, and as you said, Owen, it's only 2 games in. So let's not read too much into it. And Wolves, of course, have been poor as well. Have lost their first 2 games. Bruno, what did we decide his name was?
Lager.
It's not started well. So I think they've had quite a nice start.
They do have a nice start. I was going to say that to you, Tang, that obviously they've got Watford this weekend, and then the next weekend they have Crystal Palace. So they've got a good opening run of games as they head into the international break. I'm trying to see who they've got before. Then they've got Chelsea, so they have got a tough one then. But even so, that could be potentially 4 out of 4 when it comes to Tottenham. Obviously, we saw last season a lot can change by whoever has a good start compared to how people end the season. But do you think Spurs actually might be a bit of a dark horse, considering now Kane's going to stay?
I think it's sort of the opposite to Arsenal, where Arsenal have quite a hard run of games, and you've got to kind of wait until when the league sort of, it's very embryonic at the minute, isn't it? Obviously, only a couple of games in, but once you get to that 10-game stage, and Arsenal would have played their easier games by then, Spurs would have had some harder games by then. It's going to be difficult. I kind of forgotten your question, to be honest. Though.
No, I mentioned that because I said they got Watford this weekend, Palace next weekend, but then I noticed then after that they got Chelsea, and then they've got Arsenal, which is quite interesting.
There you go.
So you would think that obviously the Chelsea one, I mean, 2 massive games from just 2 of their biggest rivals. Maybe by the time we get to the international break, which actually I'll end about you talking about something a bit different. With the international break, have you seen that basically there's some players that can't travel to the red listed countries? What did you make about that one?
I haven't really engaged with this much, but it's you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find it weird. It's kind of club power, isn't it? As opposed to
it's like Premier League power, isn't it? Then basically saying that we're not going to let you leave.
Which is an interesting dynamic because obviously playing for your country is absolutely huge, and it should be one of the proudest moments of a footballer's career. And then you've got your club. Obviously, your club play your wages and stuff. So there's it's an interesting balance, which I think this is only sort of the beginning. It's going to take a few twists and turns. I think there's going to be fallings out between countries and players and managers and things like that. And I think it's going to get a little bit tasty in that area.
Oh, because I think I saw an interview with Allison today. Who was basically like, "What am I supposed to do?" Because I don't know. Can they actually I don't know. Can they physically stop him traveling to say like Brazil or whatever to play? I don't know if they can, but I guess if he's in England, is he allowed to fly there? It's a very bizarre sort of issue, isn't it? Like you said, people are going to fall out and people are going to be unhappy, but I guess this is just the current times that we're living in when it comes to that. To be honest with you, like, I still find the whole international football a bit baffling at this time. Like, I understand like the whole tournament. I think the fact that when the Euros is actually split across Europe actually benefited Europe in the end. Because imagine everyone came to one place, it would have been crazy, really. But now it's like when we first came back right after Project Restart, and they're like, right, we're going to have international friendlies. They're like, seriously? Like, you're going to have people flying into all of these different countries? That's crazy. Like, that's madness. So even now, which I know things are maybe a little better, but it depends where you are, right? It still just, to me, just seems crazy that I'd be like, right, we're just going to have some international games, especially when they're like friendlies. I mean, I understand some World Cup qualifiers, right? But, you know, just, I don't know. It just seems nuts to me. Anyway, we've gone for about 45 minutes, so that's pretty good time here tonight, guys. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, however you come across today. Be sure to smash a like on this video and subscribe, bottom right-hand corner if you're watching on YouTube. And, of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can subscribe there as well. Will pop up in your feed whenever we upload a new episode, wherever that may be. But we'll speak to you again very, very soon.